Hi everyone, welcome back to First Principles. Today we've got Atif with us and we'll be speaking about service design. How are you doing, Atif?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Very well, thank you. Atif, for the context of this episode, could you introduce yourself to audiences?
Sure. So, guys, as you know, my name is Atif Nagi. I'm an experience design practitioner. I am passionate about creating and improving human experiences at the intersection of business, design, and technology by tackling complex business challenges through design strategy. With a background in leading digital transformation for banks, reimagining wealth management, investor onboarding system, and driving service design for the world's largest tech company. So a little bit about myself, like I am a designer by DNA. I graduated from an art and design college.
Hmm.
Um, my major was graphic design and communication design. And most of my life, I worked as interactive designer. And then I fell in love with design thinking, service design, UX research methods when I did my master's in interactive design, focusing on HCI and UXR.
Hmm.
So if I go back and really see how my career evolved and how I moved and came up till this point where I'm doing service design and actually going beyond service design, I'm more transiting into business design and system designs, all those things. I started right after my graduation. I started my career as in advertising agencies, so doing branding, print media ads, things like that. So, but I quickly got bored out of that. So, advertising world was too flashy for me, and I was more deep type of thinker, and I wanted to solve complex problems. And my love of technology was right there as well. So my natural transition was from advertising to more towards software houses, where I started creating interaction design for the softwares and applications. So most of my life, I worked as interactive designer, art director, creative director type of person. And then I transit from interaction design to user experience and product design. And there's a difference between interaction design and UX. You probably have done all those type of discussion in the past as well. So while I was doing my transition from interaction design to user experience and product design, I wanted to have a deeper knowledge of that, and that took me to path of doing my master's in interactive design, focusing on HCI and human experiences. And that was the time when I fell in love with design thinking. And I remember in my master's, I read the book. The book name is Experiences User Experience. Observing the user experience, a practitioner guide. So that was something when I read that book, it felt like to me, I have discovered a secret weapon,
Hmm.
which I never knew as a designer before. That we used to assume, okay, this is designer, this is a user will feel like this is they want to do. But after going through with that book, I was discovered with the landscape of user experience research methods, which empowered me as a designer. And after that, um, I jumped into full-fledged UX and product design. And if currently work for a technology consulting company, and before that, I was at Lennar. That's a home builder. So I joined Lennar back in 2016, and I was responsible for their digital assets. Digital assets mean website, Lennar.com, my Lennar consumer app, employee experience applications like Salesforce, CPQ, and BI tools. And my initial job was to improve the digital quality lead of the website and the user experience.
Hmm.
To improve that, I started doing user research, try to understand the users. I used a variety of methods of research, ethnographic research, observation, role play, talking to salespeople, and all that. And at the end of the day, I started creating um, a journey map of the customers. While I was making the journey map of the customers for the website, I realized that I'm missing a big part over there. So there is a before and there's an after experience which team is not looking at.
Hmm.
So I started mapping out end-to-end experiences. And while I was mapping out the end-to-end experience, I realized that by me and my team just improving the website and the consumer application is not going to solve the problem, or it's not going to ultimately give the ultimate customer experience for the users. There's much more deeper than that which we need to solve.
Hmm.
And we need to understand what business is doing, what are the front stage, backstage operations are going on, what are the technologies which is making this happen, what are the processes which are making this happen, what are the inefficiencies in between them. But if we capture that and improve that, it will automatically improve the customer experience.
Right.
And when I was doing that, Sagar, I didn't know that I was doing service design.
Hmm.
So this is service design in very simplistic word.
Okay.
That you in service, the definition of service design is uh, planning and organizing of business resources, which is uh, people, prop, and process to directly improve employee experience and ultimately indirectly improve the customer experience. So that was my transition from the UX and product design towards the service design. And I really didn't know that. Then the next step was I bought this book,
Mhm.
if you can see that.
Yeah.
So this is the Bible of service design. And when I started this book, and at the start, I thought, what's different about it? It's design thinking. But that I was naive at that time. When I just left the book for 1 year or so. I read it beyond my that point when I was ready to do that. And once I went through with that, then I knew the difference between design thinking and service design and all that. They might overlap with each other, but that's the difference. Anyway, we'll talk about it later on. And I just want to finish my background. And from there, um, so I transition was from advertising to interactive design to UX to service design. And now I am still in the transition.
Hmm.
So my transition is moving from service design towards strategic design and business design and system design.
Right.
Thanks to my current company, Infosys Consulting, which is grooming me or mentoring me more in my transition from. So that's a quick introduction of my career. Let me know what else you want to dig upon here.
I get plenty of questions, and some of those questions I'll have to park till we meet again, if you want, in a new episode, because I want to keep this slightly, focused on service design. So I'll ask you like basic questions just for my understanding, and those are going to be like differentiation questions as well. Could you define service for me? Not like service design, just a service. What is the service?
Right. Um, the service is something. A service is an intangible act or performance that one person provides to another.
Intangible. Okay.
Yeah, intangible. It's something you cannot physically touch or own.
Okay.
Examples would be a haircut, a medical consultation, a customer support, etc. A product is a tangible item
Hmm.
that can be seen, touched, or owned. For example, cars, books, clothing,
Hmm.
right? Um, but Sagar, the beauty is that these things are merging now together. There are blur line as well.
Hmm.
And I will give you some example, and you will say, yeah, what are those? Are they product or services? So Netflix provides both platform and content. For instance, Netflix isn't just selling DVDs, they used to sell DVDs, or streaming services or technology. It's selling access to vast library of movies, TV shows, and all that.
Yeah.
So they are using digital product to sell some services over there. Uber, what is Uber? Uber provides service through digital product,
Yeah.
right? Think about airline. What airline provides you?
Of service to
Product,
fly. Well,
service to fly.
yeah.
Yes, they provide you service to fly through a product.
Yeah.
The product is airplane. The experience you have all in the airport and checking and all that in the experience.
Hmm.
And they also use a physical product, digital product that's their United applications, for example, how you book it, their website.
Yeah.
So these things are blurring with each other now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I read a definition a few years ago, and that person was basically adamant that, well, every product ultimately is a service because it's not going to make any sense to me. Like if I buy a product, I'm buying it for what it can do for me. So from that perspective, one could say that everything is in the service of service. Okay.
I agree with it. For
Yeah.
example, car.
Yeah.
Car is, I know it's a product, but it will help you serve something,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not stuck to the definition of service or product. I don't care even about it.
Hmm.
And the reason I don't care about it is the process is similar
Right.
behind it
Right.
to improve things. And I know when we use the word service design, all of the sudden we are just thinking about service,
Hmm.
but that's not true. Um, for example, I'm sure Apple they have products, right?
Right.
But I'm sure they have a service design team and department which is helping all that. Tesla is a product,
Hmm.
but I'm sure that can be improved through the service design. So the term service design can deceive you that it is about services.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, another basic question, and this might not be that basic, but how do you define design since that, given that you've worked in so many iteration of what design is, including drawing, but then also now very like abstract things. So what's the common thread?
So I'm not going to go into any technical definitions.
Yeah, yeah.
We can pull all the cool definitions. To me, design is solving a problem.
Okay.
And when people think about design in the previous world, when people didn't have much exposure, they will just think about graphic designers.
Hmm.
Um, but they're all, or now they will think about more visual designers or people like that. But there's all type of design. There were engineers who were designers who built these bridges, cobbler who designed the shoe.
Hmm.
Um, so, or not just the physical product, and then they are. I through service design, I'm not just improving product and services. I go and improve business processes as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
Now I'm not a typical designer at that time at all when I'm doing business design. So, but at the end of the day, we are solving a problem.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And what about strategy? I mean, isn't that also geared towards solving a problem? And if yes, then what's the difference between strategy and design?
So, I mean, strategy can be strategy for anything, but there's a there's a term famous in our industry which I use that too as well, like design, design,
Okay.
strategic design,
Hmm.
and strategic design is the application of traditional design principles to systematic business problem to solve systematic business problem.
All right.
Strategic design is nothing more than applying traditional uh,
Design
design
principles.
principles to solve a problem, business
Right.
problem.
Right.
And all this goes back to Sagar to design thinking.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, in your opinion, what is design thinking?
Oh God. I mean, I've done 2 episodes on it, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I know there is one. I mean, I don't know. Let me ask you that. What is design thinking? But actually, before that, what are the fundamental traditional principles of design that you mentioned? Like, you don't need to list them out, but perhaps just give like a brief description of that, and then we can get to what uh, this is.
So, fundamental of, sorry, say again.
You said that there are fundamental design principles, right?
Right. Design principles are, it's okay. So the, the direction I was going when I talked about the design thinking was that, um, and I will answer your question in between that.
That's fine.
So the design thinking, people think that design thinking is new,
Hmm.
um, but that's the common misconception actually. Um, so design thinking is not new. Design has been practiced from ages. Um, Cobbler has been designing, the furniture makers has been designing. They might not be called as designers, but they
Yeah.
were designers.
Yeah.
And they were using the fundamental principles of designing. And they were using human-centered creative process. So when you ask what are the principles, principles are human-centered design. So when someone was designing the shoe, it was not designing the shoe, it was he was looking at the anatomy of a human being, how the feet will look like,
Hmm.
how he will use, what will be the experience and all that. So centuries years ago, they were using those principles. So that
Right.
is the fundamental principles, human-centered design.
Right.
And that's what design thinking uses, human-centered design. And they divided into six steps,
Hmm.
which is, we all know what are those steps,
Yeah.
empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. And that's the basic uh, formula they were using at well. So the specific design thinking was coined in 1990s by David Kelly and Tim Brown of IDEO. What they did was actually they introduced those design principles to the business world to solve the business problem through design thinking. That's it. Um, and that's it, strategic design as well in the business.
So, can you define business problems in this context here? Is it just about like more sales and more acquisition? What is a business problem here?
So I cannot take the names of the companies, but I
Yeah.
can define you some of my previous experiences which I solved in the past. So for the one of the largest tech company, I was helping them to uh, improve their global partner billing system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they were losing millions of dollars. Um, they were high cost. They were losing revenue, and because of the broken system. So this is an example of uh, business problems.
Right.
And we went there as a consultant and understood, try to understand what the problem was, try to see through our research. We used, bring our toolkit of UX research methods and try to uncover the problem. And once we uncover the problem, we synthesize that problem um, into you know uh, outcomes, tangible outcomes. So sometimes service design can be really complex, but how do you make that complexity simple so that the people can visualize that? Then that you use some artifacts like service blueprint, empathy maps, um, prototypes to make things easy for them. So converting those pain points into current state, really, you know, understanding yourself and validating that from the client, and then converting those pain points into uh, and finding the gaps between that. pain points. What are the gaps? Is there a process gap? Is there a technology gap? Is there a design gap? What type of gaps were there? And usually they're a mix of all of them,
Hmm.
actually. And then you propose a future state. What a future state will look like down the road in 5 years or 10 years. What capability does business needs to up their game? And when they up their game, it's going to improve the customer employee experience and then actually improve the customer experience at the end of the day. So this is just one example of solving business. The other example I will just give, recently for a global financial institute, I helped them improve their employee experience, ha, from from hiring to retiring. So all the stages of hiring them from different countries, onboarding them, their training, going on their assignments, and then at the end of the day and of their life, retirement and pension and all that. So that was another business problem, right? So I'm just saying there are different type of examples. My recent example is, which I just did for one of the top insurance company, was to improve their surveillance experience.
Surveillance experience. Okay.
Surveillance experience. Um, so these insurance companies, when they sell financial products, insurance or any of other products, they have to sell that under certain government rules and
Hmm.
FINRA rules, and you need someone to watch that
Right.
experience. So I help that organization to improve their current experience and come up with the future state. Um, and at the end of the job is not just to propose it, but also to give them a roadmap how to achieve it.
Hmm.
Um, and you also have to start thinking about as not, the product people thinks like launches. What's the next train is coming for the launch, but this is a little bit different. So you have to think about phases. So there's a 2 year phase, next 2 years phase. What will happen in 10 years? Um, think about human evolution from cavemen to um, agriculture revolution to industrial revolution to scientific revolution to now we are going towards singularity. So these are the big phases which nature, God, whatever you want to call, is happening in big phases. Same way we have to think when we are helping large organizations and enterprises.
Okay. This looks like it's not just a particular industry which can benefit from service or
Yes.
business. It could be the government. It could be any kind of industry, even education for that matter. Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
That's why I was saying, okay, your question is interesting, that what is service versus product,
Yeah.
but I don't care.
Hmm.
I can solve any complex problem through that. And there are many principles which while we will go through and we can talk about it.
Hmm.
The the main three principle of service design is it's customer centric. Although we are talking about employees, backend, and experience, but the ultimate goal is to improve the customer experience. So it's customer centric. The second pillar is co-creation.
Okay.
So in traditional design world, the art director and creative director was the king,
Right.
and he will sit and use imagination and draw something and come up with the cool something like that. Most of the consulting companies, agencies still have that model. They have
Hmm.
not evolved there yet. They will
Hmm.
sooner or later. But the service design, the second major principle is co-creation. So, for example, with all these activities which I was involved in, um, creating the surveillance experience, um, I co-created the future state with my clients and stakeholders. So I came up with a strawman idea first, and then we co-created together with that. And then the design concept, tangible design, how the application will look like and all that, I used design studio workshops to co-create with them. So second pillar is co-creation. Um, the major benefit of co-creation is the burden is gone from you. You're the only one who can design it. So it can come from anyone.
Right.
Then it's really co-creation. Like, it's not just everyone is a designer. The idea can come from a technology guy. An idea can come from a business guy, a mortgage guy. Anyone can think about things, right?
Right.
So when we do co-creation, we bring healthy mix of technology people, business people, and if possible, sometimes it's sensitive for these insurance companies or uh, to bring the customer on board as well, like
Right.
bring the real customer on board and make the mix of the group and do the co-creation together.
Okay.
So that's second principle. And last but not least, the third principle is holistic.
Heuristics or holistic?
Holistic.
Okay.
My pronunciation can be
No, I got
muddy.
confused because it's like rules of thumb, or it needs to be encompassing everything. But thanks for the
End
clarification.
to end.
End to end.
So
Okay.
it has to be end to end.
Right.
So remember the story I told you that they hired me for the website?
Yes.
And I was solving a problem for the website, which is this part.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized there's a part before and there's a big part after that makes an end-to-end experience.
Yeah.
So that's the third principle, that you have to look at bigger picture, what's going on. So overall, the strategic design is complex. It's think about it's designing, especially for a large enterprise and organization. Think about designing or creating a rainforest versus a car. So
Right.
you are in Amazon, you have to design the whole ecosystem. That's not easy to design it, right?
Right.
So the other principle, the other supporting principles are that you have to look the bigger picture, look the end-to-end picture. If I'm designing a chair, I need to think where that chair will be, which room this chair would be, what room, is it in a house or is it in an office, where this house and office is in a community and environment, and that's part of the city plan.
Right.
So think about holistic when you're designing this, working on that. And the other part is, so when you have a deeper dive in these complex systems, how would you communicate that? The second principle is that you want to communicate with stakeholder, like let them visualize it easily.
Okay.
So make complexity tangible.
Right.
And you can make them tangible through mapping methods.
Okay.
So there are empathy maps, there are customer journey maps, there are experience mapping, service blueprinting, which makes it easy to visualize, and then you can make prototypes and all that too. And the third principle is zoom in between tactical and strategic.
Tactical and strategic. Okay.
And strategic. So remember we talked about rainforest. We're talking about a complex organization. So the traditional design methods, in their simplicity, design thinking, and double diamond approach, they are linear in their nature.
Okay.
I know you have seen design thinking in a circle. You can go back and do. No, it's not linear. It's linear.
Okay.
with small going back and forth. It's linear in nature.
All right.
Um, but I know people can argue with me that. But when think about when we talk about this blue dot called Earth, and it looks all the things are too complex to us. But when you zoom out and look at the universe, you will think, oh man, this is nothing. Like there
Yeah.
are much more complexity in the world. So same analogy I'm going to use for that. So zoom between technical and strategic. So what is technical design? So most of the life, usually designers in the initial part of their career, they do technical design. Leonard.com was a technical design.
Okay.
My Leonard app was a technical design. Uh, Designing applications or products is a technical design. Strategic design is when you are designing a rainforest.
Hmm.
You are zooming out. You're looking at different parts of the organization. You're looking at different parts, what's making the service happen. Where are the inefficiency and all that? That's strategic design. So ability to zoom in when you need and zoom out when you can.
Right. Right. Okay.
I think I'm speaking a lot. I'll
No, no,
pause
no,
with
no. Go
this.
ahead. If you have a point to cover, do that.
Okay. And then for there are two more principles left for that, and this fourth principle is I think we talked about it. Design multiple horizons, like um, phases, like
Hmm.
design in evolution. Like if it's a 10-year plan, how would you achieve it? You know, uh, what is the MVP one look like in 2 years? What is MVP two look like in 3 years and 5 years and all that? And then last but not least, again, that principle which will go back to the core principle is facilitate design.
Hmm.
So when I introduce myself to my clients, I tell them that I'm not a designer. I am a facilitator. I am a mediator. You will solve the problem with me. We will do it together. It's co-creation. I am the bridge between you and the customer,
Right.
and we will solve this problem together.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, that's the final core principle, one of the core principles there.
I want to double click on a few concepts over here, especially the
Hmm.
zooming in. Now, I'll take your example of the chair. Now, let's say in downtown Houston, you're designing a chair for a room in a building in downtown Houston, right? How much do we zoom? Do we zoom to the room, to the building, to the whole sector in a city, to the city, state of Texas, the country, universe? What is the
Good,
right level? What's the scope?
good,
Where do we
good,
stop?
good. I think the first question is when I gave the example, I just gave the example to help you understand the
Yeah, yeah,
concept.
yeah.
Um, but let's say we just talk about in case of chair, really chair.
Hmm.
So we have to stop somewhere. So that definition will come from somewhere actually where you want to stop.
Okay.
That should come strategically through the discussion and all that. But in that
Okay.
case, let's say if we're talking about chair, um, it is zooming out a lot, really, if you're a good designer.
Hmm.
If you're designing a chair, you want to understand who's your end customer, who's going
Hmm.
to sit on it,
Right.
who's your customer who's providing that. If it's a school, if it's a business, what type of you use. So you will look all those things, and maybe you won't look about building or something else. But if you keep on zoom out, you want to look at sustainability.
Right.
You want to look at the world, man.
Hmm.
It, am I doing the right thing? I'm designing the right. I'm using this is sustainable material to do that. Sustainability is a big thing nowadays, right?
Right.
So even for this example, which I thought I might not be able to help you understand, but I think you can see the zoom out level that you want to zoom out to the environment and be friendly with the environment.
So is it reasonable to say that you zoom out as much as responsible, and what the boundary of the zoom out is you and your client? you figure out together.
Yes, yes. And in really like real world where everything runs
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, I was coming to that.
on money.
Yeah.
So usually our engagement dollars decide how much we want to zoom in and zoom out
Okay.
on that. Uh,
Have you had a tussle with a client if you want to like invest some more, but they can't because they have a certain budget? And maybe the budget isn't informed because they don't know about your process and this is a better
right,
process. How do you
right,
have that conversation? How do you pitch them to put in more, and what's in it for them? Like, how do you pitch
right,
this?
right. Um, I think uh, this is very typical, right? Like this is something we deal with every day in any type of projects. It's a challenge for us. I won't say I have an answer for you
Hmm.
because sometimes we get succeed, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we say, okay, what it is, it is. Like
Yeah.
we are doing this and getting out of it.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes I have done not even service design projects, UX project where they don't even give us budget to do the user research or usability testing and all that. And uh, without user, there's no UX.
Right.
There's just X, right? Um, but we'll do it because
Yeah.
that's why they hired us and to do that. We will convince them if they can get the budget, we can budget. But mostly when we try to convince them through what the service design can benefit you, your business. So we try to show them the increased customer satisfaction by focusing on customer experience. Service design can lead to higher level of satisfaction, loyalty. It's hard for them to really imagine to improve an employee experience. Why should I spend money to improve? Like, my employees can deal with it. They will keep, but we have to show them how much time they are wasting
Hmm.
in that effort, what efficiency you will bring in that, how much you will free up that resources to improve that. So, increased customer satisfaction, improved efficiency, enhance brand
Hmm.
reputation, and innovation. Like you will bring innovation through all that process. So we walk them through. Um, some of them get it, some of them don't. And I think I have seen recently an awareness in the market that people reach out to us for a service design uh, activity.
Okay.
So I have met my other designers and friends and in the organization or outside of the organization when they say, how do you convince them to do the service design for us?
Hmm.
So I said, yeah, it's difficult, but I have seen awareness. People are coming to us but these are usually for sure Fortune 500 organization and they are Fortune 100 organization, which have money to spend and they realize the value they are going to get out of it. And, you know, somewhere between Fortune 10 to 100, those are our clients.
So no little guys. How do the little guys get the help?
I think it's just like any technology.
Hmm.
So it's just like cruise control might be a luxury in a car. A seat belt was a luxury in a car. Um, those airbags were a luxury in a car. But even adaptive cruise control, you have to buy that. But now every car has built in on those things. So when a new process technology something comes, usually it's the richer one who get benefit of it.
Yeah, because they
When the
can.
cycles,
Yeah.
when the cycles came, who afforded cycles, and now
Hmm.
who are using cycle in their daily life?
Right. Right.
Cars, airplanes. So same thing will happen with it. I think the more it will get into mainstream
Hmm.
and everyone will start using it, you will see the trigger into the regular agencies, in regular organization. It will trigger down to them.
What is the overarching term you'd describe all these disciplines by? Is it just design or is it strategic design? So, like, let's say a combination of UI, UX, product design, service design, business design. What is the overarching term?
I would say strategic design. You can say design as well. Like
Yeah.
um, these terms come and go.
Yeah.
They every few years there are new terms to describe those things. But in my opinion, right now, the way I will describe it is it's a strategic design, and it comes under design umbrella.
Umbrella. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, some differentiation questions. Now, and this might be obvious, but we talk about the obvious over here. That's why it's called first principles. How do you differentiate strategic design or service design, let's say, from you, the old school designer, let's say, the New Yorker cartoonist or the Walt Disney cartoonist or somebody who is, I don't know, Panchatantra, whatever. Like they are making comic books. It's very artistic. Or like a stage designer at Broadway, or like a cinematographer. Are is the user focus heavy there as well, or is it just mostly that person's creativity? Like you said, art directors are the king.
Right. 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 Right.
What's
Right.
the difference
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I think I kind of touch upon it during my journey today when we talked about tactical versus strategic
Okay.
design. Um, I think there most of the individuals are doing tactical design. I was doing tactical design as well. The principles are same.
Right.
The main principle is human-centered design, uh, and that's been using from centuries. So I don't think so. They're doing anything. Even a cartoonist, um, I think he first of all he's not a designer, right?
Okay.
You need to understand the difference between artist and design.
Explain.
So um, I'm not going to go to a fancy definitions, but I'm just going to articulate it in very plain English.
Yeah.
So an artist to me is who use her creativity um, for herself. For example, a painting, a cartoon, or something, which is what she is feeling from all that,
Hmm.
and she is outputting an artifact for that. It could be a sculpture, it could be a painting, it could be any creative element of that.
Yeah. A book. Anything.
Artist book, maybe.
A creation of
I
art.
never,
I mean,
I never,
if
I
it's a
never
bag.
thought about that. It's a good, but I never thought about that. Um, a designer is who is solving the problem for the people.
Right. Right.
It's
Okay.
not his personal um, sensitivity or art and all that. It's so when I think cartoonists are more like an artists,
Hmm.
not even designers. But I can be wrong. Please don't
No, that's fine.
don't
That's
let me
opinion.
be
But like,
right.
do you think there can be an overlap over here? Because that creative vitality you would need in a designer as well, right?
Right, right. There is an overlap actually.
Right.
That's why I graduated from an art, design, and architecture college.
Right. Right.
So they all were mixed over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had artists who were painters, miniatures, sculptures, you name it, like all discipline of art. They were sitting there. My class fellows are full of there are artists over there. Then there was a design discipline, textile design, graphic design, product design, all type of designs, and then there's the architecture. So they come under one umbrella. And even if you go to traditional product design, you will see they are they are UX researchers, they are UX designers, they are product designers, they are visual designers, they are
Mm.
interaction designers.
Space designers.
So yeah, and visual designers are a little bit more close to the artist side of the thing.
Right.
Um, and then sometimes we also hire illustrators.
Right.
So there are illustrators in the group as well for creating illustrations. They are artists.
Okay.
So sometimes they get commissioned as well. Like you see Picasso and all that. They big art. Then they've been commissioned to do something.
So they are solving a
Uh,
problem for someone else now.
they, yeah, they're commissioned. They're not solving.
Or they're commissioned to be themselves. They're commissioned to
Right,
bring whatever their creativity is to fruition.
right.
Right.
And even photographer, right? They talk by definition, photographer is an artist.
Right.
But we do hire artists. Sorry, artists and also photographers
Yeah.
to do something for us.
Right. Right. Okay.
Right.
Few other differentiation questions because I like to like cut things apart. So
Right.
fashion design, textile design, is that closer to art or closer to design in your definition?
So a designer is a mixture of both.
Yeah, yeah. But here,
So so even here, it's a mixture of both. So I have friends who are fashion designers, who are textile designers, who are ceramic designers.
hmm,
Um, I think ceramic designers are more towards the art side. I've seen them more creating their own art and then selling, but they also have to look at the usage of humans and how they use it and all that. So I think they're a mixture of both. You have to have creativity in both sides of the thing. So if I see myself as a graphic designer, um, back in the days, I was a mixture of both. I have to have creativity in me, and then I need to see what problem I'm solving. Usually mix that. Same thing apply to textile designers. Same thing apply to fashion designers. But if I see now as a strategic designer, if I see as a service design, do I need to be an artist? No, maybe not.
hmm,
Maybe I can hire people to do that. Uh, but I'm a designer.
right. Now, what about architects and engineers? They solve problems. Why aren't they
Yeah,
called designers?
they do call designers.
They
They
are?
are design engineers.
They are design engineers. Okay.
They are
So
designers.
they are
The
by
architects
definition
are design.
designers. All right.
Architects are designers, and the real engineers who build that are engineers. So
Hmm,
architects are technical designers,
hmm.
and within engineering, civil engineering, there are structural engineers who are designers
Who are
actually,
designers?
who are
Okay.
designing structures,
Right. Right. Right.
bridges.
Right.
So that's what I was telling you, that when I gave the definition of design
Hmm.
is very broad.
Yes. Yes. Okay, interesting. I think perhaps I'm going to label this episode as strategic design rather than just service design
Okay,
because this makes more sense. This is more holistic, as you said.
right.
Okay, I have a question on user experience. Um, from an outsider looking in, because I've worked with UX UI designers, but I've not been one. First of all, it's clubbed together, UX and UI. Why
Yeah,
the clubbing? Because user experience can be so much broader than just a user interface on a digital screen.
yeah,
Why do you think they're clubbed together, and what is a meaningful difference between them?
yeah. I cringe every time when I
Oh,
work with technology, and when I'm working with the developers and they say, "Oh, Atif is UI UX person." So to them, it's one word,
right, right.
but I'm not there to teach them. I'm there to work with them
Yeah,
and
but
try to
teach
make
me,
things
teach me though.
right. I think it's very fundamental. You will find hundreds of YouTube and LinkedIn videos on that. So UI is more what I was doing back in the days.
Okay.
So when I told you I switched from um, advertising to interaction design,
Hmm.
so user interface was part of the interaction design at that time.
Right.
So UI, there are two parts of UI. One is designing the interaction and the architecture and flow, and the second part is visual design on top of it. So there is actually differentiation between that two within the
Mm-hmm.
UI as well.
Right.
Um, and the UX is more end to end. So from a product perspective, the UX is about understanding the users, understanding their pain points, and designing something based for the users,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then doing the usability tests, to validate what you have designed. That's the UX in that limited definition.
Hmm.
But it can go broader than that. The user experience can go to services. Um, you really like and to like when I was talking about when I said customer experience, I keep on interchanging customer experience versus user experience
Right.
with them. Um, for example, in terms of Lennar, I was helping the customer experience at the end of the day.
Right.
But what is customer experience? Customer experience is looking at homes, helping them buy that, then eventually buying them, using digital products to buy that, owning them, the transition which happens to own them, the paperwork, the lawyers, and all that. Then when they become owner, then there's a customer care part, which is a separate part from us actually.
Hmm.
We get mixed with them.
Hmm.
Customer care is when you go back and help solve problem in the product. So um, because I came from the UX industry, so I called just the website experience and the user experience. But if I stretch it out, it's a customer experience.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to speak about that a little bit. Design of a contact center or a customer service center, or for that matter, go back to any kind of restaurant, the original service, kind of, or like a
Right.
hotel, right? Like
Yes.
you're
Yes.
greeted in a certain way. A lot of thought goes behind that. Now, some of it is
Right.
heuristics. Families have done it in a certain way. They go to hotel management schools and you learn it. But then,
Right.
if you look at it again from first principles, you could reinvent the wheel in a way that benefits you, right? If you want to redesign a hotel experience.
Right. Right. So I'm glad you brought that up. I missed that point when we were talking about services and all that.
Hmm.
So service, there's a similarity to traditional hospitality services.
Right.
That's the closest brother we have.
Right.
Um, however, the service design has broader scope,
Right.
um, covering the wider range of services beyond the hospitality.
Hmm.
So I have worked for when I mentioned that I have worked on digital transformation for uh, banks and onboarding. That kind of covers that too.
Hmm.
So um, we when we run the service design activity. So as I mentioned, that we are not looking for a specific problem. We're looking for all the gaps which are present over there. The gap could be process, the gap could be technology, the gap could be design applications, and the gap could be tangible prop. For example, in case of a bank, the bank branch,
Hmm.
how you enter, teller, and all that experience. I was working on a project for an airport where I was reimagining the end-to-end experience for uh, um, customer. Like when you go to an airport, you park your car in the parking. How you reach to the airport, from airport to security, security to um, uh, boarding, and all that experience. So it's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Wayfinding, um, what are the how technology is helping it. I think a lot of things which I'm helping right now is um, how AI can help to improve the user experience or customer experience. A lot of new projects I have done in past 2 or 3 projects were based on AI
Yeah.
experience, how AI can improve the experience for the users
What's
or
the best
customers.
airport you've been in? Like design wise. I mean, service design wise.
I think um, Istanbul, Turkey
Okay.
airport. That's awesome, man.
All right.
That's beautiful. That's like you will find wayfinding and everything. That's awesome. Um, I used to think Dubai was the best one, but I
It's not
think
bad though.
It's not right, but this is better than that.
Okay. What about Changi in Singapore?
I've not been there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they have this internal forest. Now, it's okay. I mean, I didn't mind, but what I like is if I can just go to an airport, especially if I don't have a machine readable passport or something, I can just like whiz through. And that experience was only in Dubai, which is great.
Right,
So I have
right,
not been to Istanbul, so I will check that out as much
right,
as I
right,
can.
right.
I
Cool,
don't,
cool.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, perfect. You're good.
Yeah. So we are touching the hour, but I do have a few like ending questions. So we're
Yeah.
entering the last segment. Now, I don't know how much you can speak to this, but it's my experience that for some reason, Japan has kind of figured this out in like the culture. It's so in the zeitgeist that I don't know if they really have a separate word for it. I'm going to call it Japanese maintenance ethic. Like, I'll give you an example. You go to a convenience store over there, and of course, it's catching on here as well, but the in the fridge, in the refrigerator, all the drinks, like all the beers or Coke or whatever, it's slanted in such a way that, if you take out one, the other cans just come in. Now, till that point, I hadn't seen it in a lot of other places. And I'd been to some places in Europe, not the
Right,
States till then. And
right.
these little things. So like the matcha ice cream with like the gold covering over it. It's just so much thought is given. Like every time you go to a restaurant, there's going to be a little basket for the ladies if they're carrying a purse, just to keep it over there. Not seeing that kind of, like they just call it service and hospitality. The Shinkansen, their bullet train, and the way it's cleaned. Is there something to be learned from cultures that we don't have a lot of interaction to, but the level of, like, let's say what we are calling like a service design is already so practiced over there that we need to abstract that and like put that in here? Like, have you done such projects as well, cultural studies?
Wow, that's wonderful. I think what you're talking about is beautiful. I wish I am involved in such a study, but uh, it it triggers me a couple of thoughts, different thoughts here
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there. One is when I was studying design in my college, National College of Arts, they taught us a little bit of calligraphy,
Right,
which is our traditional art.
right,
Some of the traditional design there, miniature art, which is South Indians' speciality,
right,
and then more everything else we were taught was Western design.
right, right,
We have studied Western design. That's it.
right.
Um, Nothing else. We have seen some of the example of Chinese art or Japanese art, and so the Far East art is so developed,
Hmm.
and they have their own thingy. Like they're different to different breed. I think it's more like I don't know how do I explain it. Like Mac and PC world. Like they're two different things.
Yeah.
They run by the different things. The philosophies are different.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's the
Um,
philosophy which they're backing on as well. Because like one example is in a chewing gum box, right? You will have a little sort of tiny sticky notes, which is just meant to throw the chewing gum out in that thing. I don't see that anywhere. Anytime I buy a chewing gum box, there are no papers inside. So I have to like
wow.
look for things to, and they figured that out. I don't know like who even came up with it. And I think they're like divining it. I don't know if they or maybe they're asking customers or whatever, but these kind of things, like they come from like a culture of continuous improvement, which is worth studying.
They are they are much ancient culture
Mm-hmm.
than rest of the world.
Yeah.
Um, I'm rereading right now a book. I love that book, so I'm rereading again. *Sapien*
Yeah.
uh, by Noah Harari, and he mentioned about that. Most of the world is thinking using the European philosophy
Yeah. Yeah.
because they made colonies. They gave so I believe maybe Japanese and Chinese were not really conquered by them, so they still have their own flavor
Yeah.
in that. But most of the philosophy come over there. But when you mentioned about when I go to different cultures and see different experience, so I recently so my recent engagement finished a couple of weeks ago, and I took a break and I went to for a Western Europe trip, and I took train to London, to Paris, to Belgium, to Amsterdam, and all that good trip. It was a cool experience running around the trains. Um, I took some dollars with me and I thought I would convert it,
Mm.
but I didn't have to. I was just using my Apple phone,
Yeah.
like going seamlessly everywhere on the trains and even on a small shop. I didn't have to pull out my credit card
Right.
out
Right.
of it.
Right.
So just a small example of how cool the experience was that I didn't have to carry anything from that perspective.
Yeah. But just one point over there. It also matters what the North Star is for your project of whatever kind of design you're doing. And then let's just call it strategic design. Because if the North Star is a lot of privacy, then convenience might need to take a backseat. Because, if you want to like Germany
Yeah,
famously still uses a
yeah,
lot of cash, even in spite of being like a Western, advanced economy, because they probably care about it. It's in the culture. And then things like in the commercial space, generally the top kind of North Star is the dollars coming in every year. And
right.
that dictates what kind of like retention you want, or what kind of service you are. Because if you are like a fast moving consumer goods company, I don't know if you care that much about loyalty, apart from the fact that, commodities are grabbed at the right time. So once the North Star is sorted out, then I guess
Hmm.
the process can start, because you know where you're orienting. Or am I wrong here?
No, no, I think you're right. You have to define the North Star, and then there's a compromise between, as you said, security versus if there are
Convenience
people
and privacy.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, they just want to use cash.
Yeah.
Um, I was almost about, I my nephew sent me a podcast. I forgot the guy's name, famous guy over there, and he told how we feel tired than before, even though if we have all these convenience and all that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we are constantly busy and making things busy. So I'm almost about that, making decision to get rid of this, um, and get a flip phone type of thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it will be cheaper.
Yeah.
And then if I have to check mail, I will come back and open up my laptop
Yeah.
like old days
Yeah.
and get rid of this
Yeah.
and get $25 Casio watch, which my father gave me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, I want to go back to that because it is overwhelming, the information we are getting every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, just,
I think
yeah, go
like
ahead.
for the first time in society, like, food is plentifully available, because, I guess before 1800s, it was just normal to be at the edge of starvation. We as a society, we need some more time to get used to wealth, because it's
Right.
certainly a good thing. But then you need to put guardrails to protect your whatever, your psyche and this and that. So that works. Okay. So just before we end, can you share that book again? I definitely am going to get it. And then the name of the author as well. So this is Service Design Doing. This is Service Design Doing. And okay, who is the author? I
So
can't remember.
author is not one.
Oh, many
So
authors.
that's
Okay.
why
All right, all right,
there
all right.
are multiple authors
There are multiple authors. Okay, I'm gonna get this book, folks, and this is gonna help. Uh, any last thoughts, Atif? The
there.
floor is yours. Whatever you want.
You touch upon food part of it. So I was thinking about, we are dealing with a good problem, more food over there, and I am dealing with that too. So I want to lose my weight, and I started doing intermittent fasting. So I started with one day a meal, 24 hours type of meal, and today was my first day. I want to break through with that, and I want to do a 3 days of intermittent fasting.
Okay.
But and I was about to do it if it was not meeting you, because 5 o'clock I woke up and I was feeling very weak, and even my voice was not getting out of my throat.
Right.
Then I ate something to come on this show.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but I'm going to retry again maybe next week or something.
So for
But
every yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
so go ahead now.
Now, it's saying for everybody listening, this is not like dietary advice, but if you want to go the 3-day route, I like Jason Fung's book, and
Yeah,
maybe check that out.
yeah,
KCl, so potassium chloride, salt water, along with perhaps some bone broth helps. But I don't know,
right,
because some people, when they have that, they want to just actually eat. So I don't know how that works, but the micronutrients can sort it out.
right. But other than that, my final thoughts are, it was Very nice talking to you and your audience, and talking about service design. Um, that's my passion. People ask me if sometime in these conversation, if if you were not this, what you will be doing.
Hmm.
So I usually say, uh, if I'm not this, then I will always be a designer, maybe a different type of a designer.
Right.
Maybe I would be an automobile designer
Hmm.
or some other designer, but I can't think about anything else than design.
Wow. Okay. This is a lovely note to end the podcast at. Thank you very much, Atif.
All right. Have a
See
good
you,
one.
see you around,
Bye.
folks.